Welcome to working title, Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration.
Without the eggs.
Coffee with Craig. Well, I got some advice actually because there are many vegans out there and I'm not a vegan myself.
Right.
Maybe I'll become one, but vegans don't eat eggs. So
Right.
maybe.
So what do the eggs refer to then?
Well, sometimes we'd have eggs. We don't have eggs today, we've got coffee.
Maybe we could superimpose them.
And put a picture of eggs, the eggs emoji.
If there was any URLs we mentioned, it could come up on an egg. Oh my god, I'm going to stay.
We're straight into it already. So this week's guest is Tom Ollerton, and I'm kind of turning the tables on Tom a bit. Some of you may know Tom as the host and interviewer of Shiny New Object.
That's correct.
Had the pleasure to be one of your guests on that, which makes this enormously intimidating for me because you're kind of the expert.
Well, why does it make it intimidating?
Well, because you know how to do this, and I'm just bumbling along, finding my way.
Right.
But you also have a company.
I do have a company.
Called Automated Creative, which we'll talk about as well. Sounds brilliant. Super interesting. But the purpose of this, I'll put my coffee down because I'm still talking, is to learn a little bit more about more your personal journey, which I think has some real interest in it. Going through marketing, well, we shall see. So take me back, start by taking me back, and where did it all begin for you?
In terms of my
born
career,
and raised born and raised in the UK.
Yeah, born and raised in the UK, in the northeast of England, and I went to university to study philosophy, which turned out was really difficult. And I remember there was this lecture and I didn't understand, and I went to speak to the lecturer afterwards, and I just said, I'm really struggling with this subject. It was predicate logic, which is
you've lost me already.
It's turning language into numbers basically, and I was just could not handle it. And I said, look, what are we doing here? And he said, look, if you can understand predicate logic, then you could have a career in artificial intelligence. And
of course.
And at the time, I was just into being in a band and doing all the things that bands do. And I went, why would I want to do that? And then very shortly left university, dropped out to move to London to get a record deal. Yeah. Convinced of my talent and my imminent fame. And then I spent a long time being very unsuccessful, and eventually recorded an album for a band that will not be named on this point or anywhere else, and spent a lot of time doing an album with a different project, and had every major record label come and see us perform, came down to the studio, and no one signed it because it wasn't very good. It was a pretty bad album. I listen to it every year and it gets worse every year, which is crushing. But it was an incredible experience. That's what I did in my 20s. Was I got up every day, got on an acoustic guitar, and wrote a song, went to a studio, did a gig, hung out with brilliant, talented, exciting musicians, and then obviously that crashed and burned, and then. During being a fairly impoverished musician, I sort of taught myself how to cook. I sort of fell in love with food, and a friend gave me a job in a pasta restaurant, like a traditional Italian place, and I got the job as the pasta chef. So I made gnocchi and everything else every day for 2 years, and that ended up being more rock and roll than being in a band, which we probably won't go into why on this podcast.
Let's go back to the musician phase.
I'm
interested
sure.
To sort of dig in a bit more. So you're a guitarist, a lyricist. Did you sing
singer,
as well?
Singer, songwriter.
Wow.
Person. I'm a bit of a strummer, not like a real player. So I'm thinking of sort of getting into writing kids songs now because my daughter's 1 and she's starting to understand that. But
do you still play?
So I have a musical broken heart. And what I mean, that's a bit much, I guess, but what I mean by that is, do you remember when you were little and you saw the back come off a TV for the first time? You saw it inside a TV, and you were a little bit heartbroken because there weren't any unicorns and rainbows and stuff. Yeah, exactly. You're just like, where are all the small people? And I kind of did that with music. I sort of took the back off it and worked out what makes an album, what makes an artist. And it transpires I wasn't really any of those things.
Yeah.
I think with music, I wanted to be a rock star. Like that, I wanted the affirmation, and I wanted to be on stage, and I wanted everyone to go, "You're amazing, you're talented." But I wasn't that interested in being a musician.
Right.
I'm like, being a musician was kind of sort of something that I sort of did at the same time as trying to be a rock star. Yeah. So when it came to me being a musician, when the microphone got turned on, I couldn't cut it. Like what came out of me naturally as a musician wasn't very good. Whereas all the other people around me were brilliant musicians who loved the feel of picking up a drumstick or putting their fingers on a piano, and they were just brilliant, and everything they did sounded amazing. Everything I did sounded fine. It just wasn't great. And I kind of took the back off music and looked inside and thought, wow, that isn't actually me. And then a similar thing kind of happened with food, actually. So I sometimes think you can fall in love with the end product, but actually, if you want to be successful, you need to fall in love with the process, and the end product just happens.
Yeah, what a great way of putting it. So how long were you working as a chef, a pasta chef?
A pasta chef. Yeah, I did that for 2 years. And I was dating a girl at the time, and I was like, well, what do you do for a living? Because when you're in a band or a chef, or you're working maybe in that kind of world, anyone who works in the office, you just have no idea what people do. Because like I never had a job really.
Where do you go every day?
Yeah, you're like, what do you do? Like meetings? What's it? I never had a meeting until I was 30, really. And so I was seeing this girl. I said, "What do you do?" And she worked for a mobile marketing company.
Yeah.
And I remember when she said, "I've done a user experience for a Java game for Guinness app or something." And I was just like, "What? For a what?" and then it sort of transpired that you could be creative and actually get paid money for it, which I'd never really managed up to that point. And I got really excited about the idea of advertising, creativity, technology, and I saw Gumtree, it's probably still a thing. I saw an advert come up for an internship at a digital agency, and it was just down the road from my house. So I literally saw the ad, and I walked there within 15 minutes and just knocked on the door and said, "Oh, I'm here about the internship." And they were like, "What?" we just pressed send, And so the MD, a guy called Damien Kimmelman, very, very successful entrepreneur, the guy who founded Judo, who you may have come across at some point, and had sat down with Damien, still my friend, and I said, "Look, I want to do this stuff." And he said, "Okay, come in next week." And I was doing intern stuff, and one of the things I did was he gave me new business people's CVs to read. And he just said, "Do you like any of these CVs?" on a gut feel. And I read through all these salespeople CVs, and I was like, these people don't do anything. Like there's not like a degree in sales or they were just people that had done stuff. And I said, why can't I do this? Why can't I just throw myself into this job? And he said, "Tom will probably regret this decision, but off you go." And then within a few months, we'd won work with Virgin and Vauxhall, and so I could sell.
You became a salesperson, yeah.
Well, I'd argue that all frontmen in bands are salespeople. You're either flogging the point you're trying to make in the song, or you're selling a ticket or a T-shirt or you're selling the vision of the band. I don't think many musicians would subscribe to the fact that they are salespeople, but I bet there are thousands of frontmen and women out there who will end up in commission-based sales because they have the confidence to go on stage and expose their emotions. They can read a room, they can work creatively, they can think on their feet. All those things that you need as a salesperson. Actually, I think that certain types of performers are actually training themselves to do those jobs.
I certainly relate to that. I think there are many jobs that probably fit into that category, unwittingly somehow sales jobs. So you were making the pasta with the fine flour and the eggs, and that became a little bit much after a while.
And then
because the internship and that sort of just drew you. And
I love food, but I think that with being a chef, the pay is the doing, not the pay. Because the money's so bad for most people, and the hours are awful. But there was people I worked with that there would be this whisper around the kitchen about the fact that the first mussels of the season would come in next year. Oh, there's tomatoes are coming in. You know, there'd be this anticipation, and the artichokes would arrive, and people would like pick them up. And the one thing I'll never forget was on the first day they put a lamb's carcass in the middle of the kitchen, and it was I think it was salt marsh lamb that feeds on the Thames estuary and eats like salty grass and stuff. So incredible flavour. And they said smell it. Like, and raw lamb doesn't really smell or anything, but it does have a smell. Yeah. And they said that is what the best lamb in the world smells like. Remember that. Right. And that was the same with everything: cheese, wine, salt, whatever. You know. So and you had this kind of 360 sense of everything. And so, and I loved it, but I didn't love it it wasn't enough pay, and I was 28, 29, 30, and I was like, if I stick at this for 10 years, financially, where am I going to be? Yeah. And so food isn't, you know, if you don't work in the kitchen, you can still love food. So I was like, well, I'm going to pursue this career in marketing, advertising, digital, as we called it at the time. And I thought, well, I'll try this for a bit and see what happens.
So creative, marketing, digital became your thing. You found that you could sell, use some of those skills.
Yeah.
And this was which company? What was the name of it?
We were called We Are VI.
We Are VI.
Who are no longer with us. But yeah, Damien span that out into Judo. I think he's no longer with Judo. But yeah, that was an incredible experience. But the great thing was we were a full service digital agency, and Damien just had this ability to say yes to anything. Like, oh, we can do a PPC campaign. Yeah, we'll build your mobile website. Oh, of course. Augmented reality, of course. You know. And so his view was just sell anything and then work out how to make it later, which I think is not always the best move. But exposed me to a really broad range of different digital skills. So whether that was copy or user experience or something called social media, like that came up. It was like, and I was like, Damien, can I sort of do this social media thing? Can I sort of try and sell this in?
This was mid 2000s.
Yeah. Like, you know, like I used to go to things called tweet-ups or meetups for people that were on Twitter, because back in the day it didn't actually have your name on it. It was just like your at Craig. Well, that's Craig123 or whatever. Yeah. And so you used to go and meet people. Are you on Twitter? Yeah, I'm on Twitter. What's your name? Oh, yeah, you're you. So then my friend Louis and I, who worked at the agency, we set up a meetup called Ale 2.0, which was a meetup of people who drank real ale, who worked in digital. So anyone who liked beer, who was on Twitter once a month, would come to like a pub around here somewhere.
Was that a big group, or was it quite a niche?
It got to like 70, 80 people.
Really?
Yeah, and it was covered by Kodak on their global blog. May they rest in peace. You know, it was. But the great thing is that it exploded our network. Yeah. You know, so I met like crazy influential people, like people running agencies or brands or publications. So anyone who was an early adopter of Twitter, who liked beer, and even people who didn't, would go. And it was there I met Robin Grant, who founded Real Social, and that's how I sort of roundabout ended up there. So I went from being a guy making gnocchi to being an incredibly well connected person within digital marketing within a few months, really. Right. So that really taught me the value of blending a real world experience with doing the right thing online, and I still run events to this day. So.
Yeah, and you are really well connected. I've noticed that. I mean, you just know everyone in the industry. And the thing that sort of there's a golden thread that runs through all of the experience you've had, which is around digital. Did that just happen because that was where marketing was heading, or advertising was heading, or was there something deeper there that draws you to technology?
I think I would say the thread is creativity, and that's what was there obviously in music and in food. And what I loved about digital at that time was the creative process. I love that feeling of when you're looking at a campaign or a bit of technology where like the hair stands up on your back of your neck. Like obviously a lot of the stuff that Google has done over the years, you just like, wow, man, that's amazing. And you get, that real feeling of discovery. It's a very similar feeling to discovering a brilliant bit of music that you're like, oh my God, I had no idea that song existed, or I had no idea that was possible. And I think that really is what propels the industry, is that excitement and that thrill sometimes. So that, not digital specifically, it's the creativity that digital can inspire that is, I would have thought for a long time, will be the thing that keeps me going.
I completely relate to that. It's interesting you make the connection between creative and digital. I think it's so important. The technology is kind of the simple bit, right? How you apply it and work with it and mould it is the creative part.
Indeed.
What any good examples you can think of recently that have made your hair stand up?
Examples of recent things that have made my hair stand up. So I run a monthly meetup called I'll Be Back, and I run it with my partner Alex Hobhouse at Automated Creative. We set that up 2 years ago to explore the intersection of creativity, ads and AI. And so every month we have someone from a brand, an agency, a tech company and a startup to come and talk about the impact of AI on the advertising creative process. And that, like, every month you're just like eye wobbling, going, I just can't believe this is possible. And that was really the inspiration for founding Automated Creative, was that there's these businesses that can use AI to write music, to do deep fakes, which was obviously huge, to create film scores, to create video, to create images, to the point at which you can't tell whether it's a human or a machine that has made it. And I think that is the single biggest invention in advertising ever, the capacity for a machine to replicate advertising output in such a way that a human couldn't distinguish between a human and a machine-made bit of work. And that realization was the reason that we founded Automated Creative, was that at some point this AI is going to get so good at doing all the different things that humans do that advertising will work in a completely different way.
I'm going to come back to the questions about how that sort of relates to what we do, but I'm interested to dig in a bit more about your company. Tell me about your company. What does it do?
Yeah, so our mission is to reinvent advertising using artificial intelligence, and so we're on a journey of exploring how to do that. And we haven't managed to reinvent advertising using AI yet, but we do use different elements of artificial intelligence to make ads that perform better, quicker and cheaper than doing it just the human way. We've got an incredible client list. We work with Regabenki's, Adidas, Diageo, who else we work with? Domino's. Kicked off some work with Samsung this week, so we work out of London and Singapore. So
it's blue chip companies.
Exclusively.
So how does it work? Do they come to you with creative that's already been built for TV or something, and you convert it? Or how does it work?
Yeah, so we are a tech platform that sits between the creative agency and media agency. So, and this loosely, what used to happen was creative agency makes it a thing, because it's the media agency, they don't put media behind it and optimize that audience to get the greatest whatever they want out of that thing. And those two are almost church and state to a degree. Whereas what we do is we take that asset and then we upload that asset to a tool we have called Creator, which uses visual recognition to break down the different elements of that bit of content into what we call themes. So that can be emotions, copy, people, location, time of day, gender, and anything that's in that original bit of content. So we break it down into its core DNA, and then we remix it at a massive speed and scale by creating hundreds of different ads that run in media. And then every single ad acts as its own data point that tells us what's working for us to then generate new ads.
I see.
So
all using the same asset, so you're sort of taking it apart and putting it back together in different ways.
But in a way that's faithful to the creative agency's vision. We're not coming in going, oh, you've got an advert with dogs in it. Well, how about some cats? It's like anything that we do is downstream of the strategy, the creative platform, and the asset that's created, so that we're there to remix and recreate what is there at this huge speed and scale. And because the technology is massively reduced, the amount of time it takes to make anything means that the brand don't need then just to do one thing. You do hundreds of things, thousands of things, but all that data feeds back in centrally to tell us what to generate next.
And how are you testing it? How are you getting the data to feedback?
So we operate in social and display.
Yep.
And so we know what's happening at every element of every ad. So whether that's copy, colour, person, product, whatever, and each of those data points comes back to the central place, and we can see, okay, so it's it's people who are outside that are performing better than people that are inside. Okay, machine, go and generate more of those ads that look like the ones that are working. So it's amazing that some of those ads at the start look completely different to how they look at the end.
Yeah,
and they're really
but are recognisable somehow.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely, and it's absolutely incredible how. The thing that works is very rarely the thing that you think is going to work. So we're trying to challenge all of those biases. So, for example, what an agency would typically do is go, what's best practice for a category? Right? So, for a Diageo project, one of the themes that we explored was a bottle pouring in some whiskey into a glass. But that performed the worst, and the thing that performed the best was a guy who was swimming in a lake, right? Which is completely weird, but we're finding that...
Hopefully not after having the whiskey.
No, it was definitely before. That's a Portman Group regulation. So absolutely. So the really interesting thing was that what actually drove the clicks was the weird thing. And we find that when you're operating at a massive scale and you can test lots of different variants, that actually it's the thing that bucks the trend that can often be the thing that performs. Yeah. And that is because I really don't believe in best practice, because best practice, if we're honest about it, is also known as copying. Yeah. What do other people do that works?
Convention, exactly.
And so if brands copy each other, then they all do the same thing. And if everyone does the same thing, then you're not marketing anymore. You're just following. And we often find, using our technology, that we find these strange quirks of user behaviour that actually really drive performance. So it's a mix of creative optimization, but also understanding the things that the audience want to interact with.
Amazing. So where does that leave creative professionals, the humans, in the equation, in your view? How does this play out? You know, let's wind the movie forward. Your technology gets better and better and better. You've got creative that you're bringing into the system that's created by people mostly. Yeah. And you're transforming it. So how do you see that evolving? What's the role of the creative in the marketing?
Well, I hope I've got this right, because we won't be having this conversation, will we, in a few years. I think the future is synthetic media. So currently what happens for most of the work that we do is someone somewhere is pointing a camera at something, and someone's writing something down, and someone's saying something. There's lots of technology involved, but it's very much humans capturing things in some form or other. Then they turn that into an ad or ads or whatever, bank of assets, and then we come in and do our thing. However, I think that human-led approach will become computer generated, or what is being called now synthetic media. So if you look at something like the Star Wars film where they recreated Princess Leia, right, and that took like 9 months. It was at Framestore or someone, I hope it was Framestore, 9 months, and cost gazillion quid, right? But at some point you'd be able to do that for free or for $8.99 a month on Adobe. Yeah. So if you're a brand, why would you pay for 6 people to jump on a plane and fly over to Rio to do a shoot with Lionel Messi, at sundown, when you can get in for like 25 minutes in between 2 interviews he's doing or something like that? Yeah. Where what you could do is just license Lionel Messi's image, and you could manipulate him to do whatever you want. Yeah. So fundamentally, brands won't be there paying people to do shoots. Every single ad, every element of every ad will be synthetic. You've even seen that on car rides, right, where the car's just CG, right? So But the problem is that's super expensive at this point in time. Right? If you want to do like a 3D render of a car,
it's okay for a feature film, but not necessarily
or a big ad. But if you look back to when I started the agency, when I started my career there, a website would cost 50 grand, or whereas now Squarespace or whatever, Wix, like it's a tenner a month or 15 or whatever. Like websites that are far better than the things. So obviously that it will democratize and become super cheap. So at some point a brand will go, right, we want to advertise this mug. Okay, so why don't we do a advert with Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston getting back together drinking coffee, and then that would just appear in front of them. But then the really exciting thing is how we play into that. So it wouldn't just be one ad, it would be thousands of ads, and those ads would optimize in real time to the audience. Yeah. So advertising will be fully synthetic and will optimize in real time to the people who are looking at those ads.
Right.
It will literally be data-driven creative.
So it's not an aesthetic state, it's ever molding to...
Yeah, I mean, like Google is the exemplar of that practice. One of the early articles I read in my career was about how Google would change the color of a button to optimize it to the perfect blue or orange or whatever it is. Obviously I don't know how close you are to that stuff, but like imagine that at a creative scale, right? So how long is the ad? 6 seconds. Oh, maybe 4 seconds 45 is perfect. Maybe we need the product in after 30 seconds or after 1 second, or is it a girl holding the cup, or is it a guy, or whatever. And I think it will become a fluid, responsive thing, as opposed to let's do some research, make some assumptions about the audience, come up with a creative idea based on that assumption, and then put that out in media and hope that it works, which, if we're honest, is how the industry works at the minute.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bet, isn't it? An incredibly innovative technology and vision that you have. You must have some. Have you got some strong technologists that you work with? That's not your background, is it?
No. So we work with some in-house and external people. So we are 2 tech guys that have set up a business who aren't tech guys, and I think that gives us a really interesting point of view in the market, because quite often I meet startups who they're technology people, and they go, advertising's easy, it's just rectangles, we can, advertising's stupid, all ads are the same, and they really struggle because they can't handle the nuance of the industry, whereas we are guys who've been in creative agencies for however long, and now we're working with technology to build out the product that we think the industry wants, as opposed to, we've got some technology, let's try and make it work for the industry.
Retrofit it.
Yeah. So no, I'm not a developer, and it's embarrassing to have this conversation and not have that pedigree. But I think I bring something else to the table.
Well, you and I have that in common. We both work in technology somehow, and neither of us are computer scientists, at least. Tell me how you got on to Shiny New Object. It's not your first podcast, by the way, is it?
Not. I think it's my fourth.
Fourth?
Yeah. So the first one I did was I did a stand-up comedy course about 5 years ago.
Really?
Where they it's a kind of 6-week vocational course where you go along every weekend for a couple of days, and by the end of the 6-week program you have a 5-minute set, and then they put you on stage, and everyone who's on the course, 15 people, do a 5-minute set, and everyone brings their 5 mates with them, and they have a pro compare, and you can't not be funny in that scenario, really. Like,
people want you to.
Oh god, and everyone's had a few drinks, and there's a real, oh my god, my friend.
Still, that must be must be incredibly nerve-wracking.
And I went on to do, I think, 200 gigs in a year and a half, which is small fry for a comedian. That's nothing. That's probably quite lazy as a comic. Is 200 gigs. You should ideally be doing 3 a night if you can. But anyway, I was awful. There's a theme. The thread is not being very good at things, certainly in a performance aspect. So I did stand-up comedy, which taught me a lot. I think certainly with sales, I did a gig once where I gave myself a rule where I wasn't allowed to go on stage with any material, and I had to work it out when I got on stage.
What?
So I went on stage in front of 50 people and just went, right, I'm just going to see what comes out of my mouth, and it was the most difficult 5 minutes of my life for me and the audience, and it was awful, But I got some laughs, and then I think there was one thing that was funny, and I was like, "All right, okay." So in the subsequent gig, I used that, and that turned into a thing that turned, and as jokes do, you have to kind of build on them.
It's like a masterclass in being uncomfortable.
Yeah, basically. But now going on stage in front of any audience with PowerPoint slides with the words already written on it, that's never going to be an issue. And I'm not a great public speaker. I enjoy it, and I do it quite a lot. But I just pretty much killed my nerves. So I can go into difficult meetings if I haven't prepared in the right way, or people who are more senior or smarter or better qualified. I know I can think on my feet because I've died on my arse at Dirty Dicks with nothing.
I know I can think on my feet because I've died on my arse.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. So anyway, there was a girl on that course, Chantal, who we were like, oh, let's do a podcast together. And so we just got a smartphone and recorded it, and it was, I don't think we even listened to it, we just knew it was so bad. And then the next podcast I did was with a guy called Alistair Cole, who is I'm not sure what his job title is. He heads up innovation basically at Engine, and we did a podcast called The Innovation Ramble. Yeah. Because he just got an innovation director job, I just got an innovation director job, and neither of us knew what that was. Yeah. So we're like, well, look, if we get together every week and talk about innovation, and maybe we'll
with no scripted material, they say the same sort of thing.
Yeah. So we choose a subject like the innovation of. Items like warfare or travel or sex or death, and so we go away and find 3 interesting things about the innovation of that subject, and we recorded it in a champagne bar in King's Cross, and it was we partnered with the Drum, and it was really successful and went really well, but Al did it at the same time as having twins. It's just I can't believe that he did it, and then I did that. Actually, do you know what? I tell a lie. I did that job to try and force Real Social to give me the innovation job. So I thought I did an innovation podcast that was in the Drum. It would push them in that direction.
Fairly sophisticated job interview.
So I sort of forced them into that. I'm not sure they regret it that much, but and then once I kind of got that job, it was like, right, well, and then we were both sort of established as innovation people, so we decided to knock that on the head. But Al's just an incredible man. To spend all that time with him was just such a treat, and we're still very good friends. And then the next podcast that happened, one episode that me and a guy called Nick Dodd did, who works at Real Social, called Two Blokes and a Burger.
Two Blokes and a Burger.
The search for the perfect patty. And the idea is I'm a pretentious food git, and he's like, keeps it real. And the idea we would go around and try these different burgers, but it was just it was fun, but it was just too much work, and so that never saw the light of day. And then I set up Automated Creative a year last January. Yeah. And I was going from being an innovation person where you're across everything to being a specialist, like setting up a creative AI business. Like I felt nervous about niching down too much, and I also needed a vehicle to meet people and to stay inspired. And so I thought, if I set up a podcast about innovation where I can interview influential and insightful people about the future of marketing, then if I'm chatting to you, then I can get your view of a thing that you've thought about for months and months and months condensed down into an hour, and I can get up to speed with your thinking about that. And I've interviewed, oh my god, incredible people. I interviewed Jerry D'Angelo, who's the global head of paid media at P&G, who you probably know. It's Tom Goodwin at Zenith, all over LinkedIn. Justin Cook, who's the vice chair of UNICEF. It's just incredible people with incredible stories, and you sometimes sitting there thinking, oh my god, this is amazing. What I'm hearing here is something I've never heard of, that I didn't understand. And I think that's one wonderful thing about doing an interview podcast, is it skills you up in so many different areas, whether it's just the subject matter or the ability to put on a show or your network. So I thought I'd do it for a bit, and it's just grown and grown and grown, and it's a real labour of love. I would do it if one person listened to it. It's that rewarding.
So it must be a huge time suck, so a real commitment.
Well, no, see, there's the thing. So the Innovation Ramble was a nightmare, because we choose a subject like the innovation of transport. Oh, we don't know anything
So
about
you have
that.
to research it. Yeah.
So we'd go away and research it, and then we'd have a call going, oh, I found these 3 things. And then we go, oh, well, I like that one, I don't like that one. Okay, all right, well, I'll go and look a bit more into that. Then you had to travel to King's Cross to meet. Then you had to have breakfast, have a chat. Oh, okay, you sort it all out in a Google Doc. And then, right, we'll record it. And then I have to go and edit it. And then we did a video version. And then you had to upload it. Then you have to write a post or whatever. That was very light touch, and that was 7 hours a week.
Right.
That's a day's work.
Yeah.
Right, and I wasn't getting paid for that. There was no
Yeah.
sponsorship. It wasn't part of my weird social job. That was on top. So I had to find that time.
Yeah.
And it actually impacted on my relationship because I was doing 12-hour days at work anyway, and then I was like doing this other 7 hours.
Right.
And so I was getting up super early in the morning, and it was really tough. So I thought with trying a new object, I'm just like, right, I'm going to meet someone, and I'm going to press record, and then I'm going to press stop, and then I'm going to put it live.
Right.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
And I do a blog post as well, but that doesn't take so long. So really, I probably spend, including recording it, 3 hours a week on the
Is that all?
podcast. Yeah.
Okay. You've certainly scared the life out of me. Maybe I'm naive thinking in the time commitment. Yeah.
You've got staff, so you
Well,
can.
not personally. It's not a work. It's not a work. It's a passion project. Like,
Well, there you go.
Like yours. But
Come on, Craig. You know people. I'm sure you can sort it out.
I don't know about that. Yeah. No. I think it's a great way. I relate to that. I try to meet 3 or 4 new people a week. And
That's what this
it
is
absolutely fascinating listening to the stories of others, and you certainly learn a whole lot. I think I've listened to all of your podcasts
What?
on Shiny New Object.
You kidding me?
Yeah, because it's really relevant to the industry and remarkable
I think
to hear.
you must be the only person, but I appreciate that.
Well, I'm not sure.
Which one was your favourite other than your own? Did you listen to your own? More important question.
I did. I found that very uncomfortable.
It's tough, isn't it?
Very, very
Really
uncomfortable, honestly.
So
My favourite was Bruce Daisley. by the way.
Old pro. What they teach you to do in comedy is video your set, like wherever it is. And so the first time I did a gig, I think it was actually down at King's Cross, there was a guy there with a video camera, and he was doing a tour or something like that. And I said, "Oh, could you video my set and then email it to me?" And the set went, for a first gig, it was actually went quite well. And so he sent me the video, and I was watching it, and I was like, I thought my recollection was that people were laughing a lot more than they were, and I wrote to him. I said, I think it went all right, but people weren't really laughing that much. And he said, bless him, it's just one of those microphones that doesn't really pick up laughter. Which is a sort of the weird dig compliment thing all wrapped up in one. But if you force yourself to listen to your work, you will learn far quicker than you will with your I think that went quite well.
Yeah.
Like video it, record it, watch it. It's like going to the gym. It's really brutal.
Yeah.
Force yourself to do it.
Camera doesn't lie.
It's true.
So what an amazing story! Sort of coming through school, out of university, philosophy, music, food, digital, an incredible journey. Any advice? What are your lessons from your journey?
To who?
To people who may be starting out, coming out of school, thinking about the road ahead.
If you're starting out, I would ask yourself, what is the thing that you really love the process of doing that other people don't like so much? Is that cooking? Is it like the picking up and smelling the tomato, or is it I don't know, coding, or popping open your laptop, sitting there for what can you do for like 12 hours straight without even going to the toilet, that just fascinates you? And that's not like watching movies, which is not the enjoyment of the end result,
right?
But what is the process that you could just endlessly do without any payment, any sleep? What is the thing that you just can't stop yourself doing, that you absolutely love? And if you focus on doing that, then your end output will be amazing. And coming back to music, I think that's what why some of the bands that I really love, which are the 60s and 70s rock and roll bands, the Beatles, Stones, Aretha Franklin, and so on. Like from the age of 10, they just played piano or guitar without any thought of reward, because they just loved it.
They just loved it.
So by the time they were 18 and gorgeous and beautiful, and the 60s and 70s happened, they were just, anything that they did sounded totally incredible. But they loved the process. So
Yeah.
What is the process that you just absolutely can do and do and do, and there's probably something in that.
I've never heard that advice before. It's incredibly insightful and provocative. Amazing advice, amazing guest. Thanks, Tom.
Dude, thanks so much.
Awesome.
What fun.